And there's a clock. And there's that. Okay, I think everything is working. And yeah, I think we should be good. Yep, you're good, you're good, that's all good. All right, everything seems to be good. I hope everyone's having a good morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you are. Currently, it is cold, not terribly cold, about 22 degrees. There's going to be just the littlest bit of snow today, which is in contrast to the rest of the week previous, where it snowed a lot. Like Monday or Tuesday, it snowed like 10 inches, like just in like in an afternoon. It was a lot of snow. So yes, it's been one of those, but that's what's Wisconsin. So let's see. We've got morning from sunny and cool Phoenix. That is different than where I am. Greetings from Manchester. First time managed to catch the stream. Well, good to have you, Evan. Calgary, Alberta, Tennessee. Let me see here. Belgium, Brooklyn. What else have we got? Southampton, Virginia Beach, Hannah, Alberta, Poland, Baltimore, Utah, Seattle, Bristol. Morning from the land of Gen Con. Gainesville, Georgia, Michigan, New York, Saskatchewan, Doncaster, or Doncaster. It looks like Doncaster, but I'm sure that's totally wrong. But I apologize in advance. New Jersey, Central Texas, Belfast, Sweden. First time I watched live, painting some Chaos Marauders while listening to Adam's soothing voice. Well, I appreciate it. It's a little more soothing than usual, perhaps. Last night, my wife and I went out to a music thing, local. There was like a local, it's called Racket Fest. And we went to that and watched a bunch of bands and talked to a bunch of people we hadn't seen in a while and things like that. And when you're in a loud music venue like that and you're trying to talk to your friends like towards the back, it's rude to do it right up in front. That's not cool. But you end up kind of having to shout a lot, and then so I'm a bit hoarse this morning, as opposed to a little horse, which is a pony. Morning from Portugal, Germany, Pittsburgh, Independence, Lincoln, Nebraska. Only slightly awake. Well, I'm right there with you. Morning from Ohio, London, Montreal, Edmonton. Greetings from Wakanda. Oh well, I'm glad that you guys got the internet, through the big force field thing and all that jazz. You want to talk about a firewall? Fredericksburg, North Carolina, Ipswich. Buying my first Dark Imperium set tomorrow. Well, that'll be good. That's a good set. It's fun. Saskatchewan again. I do like to say Saskatchewan. Let me see here. Treadmill. Wait, you're just on the treadmill. Which is if I tried to do this on the treadmill, it would not work out super good. So, for Lord's sake, already with the images freezing? This is spectacular. Okay, let me do the thing that I gotta do here. And I will just unplug. I really gotta make that technical difficulties thing. And then we'll do that. And let's see. Okay, doing it fine on my side. Let's see if it catches up on the stream eventually. Come on. Because it should go unplugged. There we go. Device is not available. And then it should come back on. One would hope. Hopefully we can get this out of the way early. There we go. Spectacular. That'll be lovely. All right. What else have we got over here? We're back. Easy fix. There we go. I've been watching you to sort of decide if I like the hobby. Painted a set of 3 Space Marines from a magazine and really enjoyed them. Enjoyed painting them. Well, that's good. I'm glad. I'd like to think that the hobby is good for people because, and I say this all the time, I feel as if it's kind of a stress relief. I feel if it's meditative to some degree to sit there, and focus and paint and do that kind of stuff. And so because of that, that's one of the reasons why I do the channels, because I want more people to have some sort of hobby that allows them to work with their hands and focus and maybe listen to some music or an audiobook and that kind of stuff, and kind of disconnect a little bit maybe from watching horrible people on television do horrible things. And I don't get me wrong, I'm not against video games, but there are certain games, especially multiplayer ones, that sometimes make me stressed. So if you've got enough stress in your life, you may want to look into doing this. And as many of you are already into this hobby, this may be a thing that you might want to even suggest to your friends if they're like, man, video games are really getting me down, or whatever the problem, I've just got a lot of stress. It's something to think about. At least that's my spiel. Gary says, greetings from across the lake. Cheers. Greetings. What else have we got? Pittsburgh, visiting the in-laws and raiding American craft stores. Well, that's not a bad idea. What else? Paul Noxie 47 is gluing aggressors together. Hopefully not to each other, but like the parts. That's probably pretty good. I think that's a good idea. Patrick Wilson, sorry I'm late. Good morning, Uncle Adam and friends. Well, good morning. You just missed, hopefully, the only freeze of today. But in saying that, I've knocked on wood, but probably potentially will happen again. I may have to look into a different. There's a potentially far more expensive doohickey that plugs fancy camera into computer and makes computer think that fancy camera is a webcam. But I got to do some research, so we'll see how it goes. Let's see what else we got. Getting back into the hobby after 17 years because of your videos and used your app to meet other people in my area. Thanks, Jay. Well, I appreciate it. I'm glad to help. That's very cool that not only that you're getting back to the hobby, but that you're finding people in your local area to play games with. The Game 4 app has been doing well. We're adding new features, let's say, this upcoming week. I believe version 5.0 is launching potentially even as early as tomorrow. But it's supposed to be this week. And the 5.0 is adding convention support. There's some bug fixes and the normal junk, but also convention support. And the convention support is designed so hopefully you can find local gaming conventions in your area, or if they're not already in the database, you can very easily add them, or you could say to the convention people, if you know them, hey, you can put your stuff in here for free, and then people can find it. When we wanted to fill out that database, we discovered that there's lots of different websites, but they're all over the place and kind of hard to find. So kind of like we did with the store list, where we wanted to have a single place where you could find gaming stores no matter where you were in the world, and now we have nearly 6,500 stores worldwide into our store finder database. We want to kind of do the same thing with gaming conventions. So that will be launching, like I said, I'm 98% sure this week, potentially even Monday, which is tomorrow. Sean Montgomery says, working on a new unit for our Red Scorpions army. Nice. 3D Foundry says, I love your Necron flayed ones, by the way. It's inspiring. I don't think you can see them. They're back. They're sitting on top of the hutch, like here. I think they're just out of the frame. But yeah, because I was shooting them over here on the dining room table. I had things set up, and then I put them up there because generally cats can't get up there. Generally. I had to look at a cat to make sure they understood what I was telling them to not go up there. What else have we got? Greetings from Uruguay. Getting into the hobby changed my life, and you inspire me a lot. Thank you for your hard work, man. Totally. I totally appreciate it. I don't know if we've ever had anybody from Uruguay on here before, but welcome. I appreciate it. Burgundy Jones says, unfortunately, I injured my painting hand by slicing my pointer finger this week. Hurts, so I can't hold a brush without shaking. So it's YouTube videos to check out how to up my painting game. Well, I hope you get better soon. if you need stitches or whatever, that it'll hopefully heal up pretty soon. But yeah, I've been in positions like that, not so much with my like the pointer finger, but I had like a wrist thing that I did to myself one time, and then painting was painful for a while, so I didn't do it to like let my wrist rest. I think I said that right. Let yourself heal. Don't force it. And watching YouTube videos and learning new techniques or whatever, that's not a bad way to do it. Ben says, "What about tournaments for your app?" I mean, if a tournament event is kind of like a convention, then you would technically be able to, put that in there. You'd be able to, let's say, like, what's the one of them I can think of that's like the Holy Wars GT for, I forget exactly where it is in America, but I keep hearing about it from friends of mine that like to play competitive Age of Sigmar. So if you were to go, if the Holy Wars GT people wanted to, they could then say, hey, this is our, convention, but it's conventions and tournaments. Basically, if it's an event that tabletop gaming is happening at, and it doesn't have to be just for miniatures, obviously. Like that whole app is designed for also board games and for RPGs. So if you're having a big RPG convention or like a Magic tournament, like big Magic tournament or something like that, that would be, again. But again, we're talking about like, it's kind of a different thing. Like if you're going to have a Magic tournament at a store, well, then that would just go into the normal game events. But if you wanted to have an actual, like if there was going to be vendors and stuff like that, then you would want to put that jazz. And it's also, if you're doing Magic tournaments, let's say at your store, you probably do them more than once a year or something like that. Whereas generally conventions are annual. So that's kind of where it's at. We're still kind of feeling out like what's an event and what's a convention / tournament or whatever, but that's what we're working on right now. Like I said, it'll the framework for it and everything, so people can start seeing, because we basically collated a list of, I don't even remember how many, 200-300 I think conventions, and that's our seed list, and then people will be able to enter stuff and things like that. And honestly, getting the seed list together for local conventions was more difficult than getting the list together for game stores. This took longer to find stuff, and it's still kind of highly incomplete. But greetings from Scotland. Sam says, I play Skaven in Age of Sigmar, but I want to learn 40k, and I really like the look of Grey Knights, but people say they are not great, and I should pick another faction. Any advice on what I should do? It depends on whether or not you want to play competitively. If you want to play competitively, then Grey Knights are probably not the army for you right now. If you don't if you don't play competitively, meaning you don't play in tournaments and things like that, you just like to play with your friends, but you don't like to lose. Like if you want to really win like all the time, then that's how you kind of pick your army, is what you think is going to work best. But here's the news flash. There's no such thing as what's going to work best. Like there's something that might work best right now in the meta, the competitive meta, but in a year something new will come out that will have a counter to it or something like that. Like nobody was playing Gene Stealer cults competitively, and now the new book is out, and a lot of competitive people are looking at it and going, oh, this is maybe a thing. This is probably going to be top tier. And so it's constantly a shifting battle. That's why like the big winter tournament people have a tendency to hop armies a lot, from what I've seen. And it's because they're jumping on whatever the most powerful top tier kind of army is, which is fine if that's what you're going for. If you just really think that Grey Knights are awesome and you really love painting silver and you really want to, and they are amazing models. The Grey Knights, like, they're still Space Marines, they're still Terminators or whatever, but they have all that extra etching and stuff and all those words and everything like that. They're amazing, great models. And if you're really into that, you think that's super cool, then you should definitely go with them, because that's the way. It depends on whether you're really interested in the hobby and the lore and all that kind of stuff, and you'll play with the rules you play with, or if you need to win, whether you're playing competitively or not, you need to win, then you have to probably look at whatever that is. But again, like I said, understand that could easily change at any given time. All of a sudden, like look at Blood Angels. Everybody was, from what I understand, in the tournament scene, people were playing Blood Angels because of the Smash Captains and all that stuff, and then that got nerfed, and now it's so depending on just following the meta all the time can get you to spend a lot of money. Frankly, that's kind of the way it works. So There we go. Useful G says, "All praise the four-armed emperor." See, there you go. That's the whole thing with the because those models came out while I was at the Las Vegas Open. Like that Saturday is when the set came out. So there were a couple vendors, like because Games Workshop was there and did not put out any of the Gene Stealer stuff, the Gene Stealer cults stuff. Excuse me. But there were a couple of vendors there that were stores selling stuff, and they had this stuff there right away on Saturday morning, and people were buying it there. The motorcycle dudes look really cool. I really like the motorcycle guys for Gene Stealer cults. I almost might pick some up just to use maybe in other games, because they're not that you're never going to be able to use them in Kill Team, and I don't see myself building an entire Gene Stealer cult army. But I could use them for Wreck Age because there's motorcycle folks in Wreck Age. Again, they might just be just super fun to paint and then, whatever. But if I can use them for something else, that'd be kind of cool too. Let's see here. Tony says, "I have a pile of Grey Knight sprues behind me right now." See, and the Orc Warlord says, "Grey Knights are a great looking army." They really are. Like when they came out with those new models in plastic, like, I don't know, maybe 6-7 years ago, with all of the shoulder pads are all etched with like all the different names of the different crusades and the greaves and the everything, and they're just super high detailed, really amazing models, yet they're still just like Space Marines. Well, they're shaped like Space Marines and they're shaped like Terminators, but obviously they are different. So I'm going to eventually have a Grey Knights kill team. I have the models, I just haven't built them yet. I've got several other kill teams in the way, so that's kind of how that works. What else here? Poppy Appletree says, "I'm currently customizing a load of Poxwalkers. I love that since they're Nurgle units, I can do some extremely freaky poses and anatomical configurations." Yeah, the one thing I don't like about the Poxwalkers to some degree, and it's a silly thing, I don't like their faces. Like that weird sort of almost rictus grin that they all have that's almost all the same. Like, I get lore-wise why that is. It just, I don't know, it bothers me. Not, like, it makes sense that it's happening, and that's not the issue. It's not that they have all the same face. I'm not, that doesn't bother me. It makes sense because they all have the same disease, so it kind of makes... It's just that the actual face itself, to me, just looks, I don't know, goofier than I would like. And it's just an aesthetic thing. It's honestly, it's not... Everything else about him is fine, and cool and everything. But it's just that face is aesthetically, to me, is annoying. I don't know what it is. Like, I love a lot of faces in that line, in the overall, 40K line, and in, Age of Sigmar, too. There's a lot of them that are super, like, expressive. Like, I always talk about how the goat people, the beastmen, have got awesome faces, and I just love them. But something about those Poxwalkers that just rubs me slightly the wrong way, and it's all right in here, you know what I mean? The rest of them is, for the most part, fine. Although there's one, there's one guy in the Poxwalkers that is like, he's got like a long coat, like a lab coat almost. So I've seen people paint it as a lab coat that's kind of dirty, and all that kind of stuff. But other people have painted it like as a duster or something like that. And there's something about the way that it flows that just doesn't quite strike me. The rest of the models are great, but that one specifically, I'm kind of just like, meh. I don't know. Honestly, it's a super first world problem, but yeah. Let's see here. What else have we got? Dave says, "Hello from Dublin. I've been given permission from my fiance to 40K up our wedding in subtle ways. Anyone got any suggestions?" Trying to think a way to fit Blood for the Blood God into the wedding cake, and I'm not quite sure how that would work. But I mean, it's cool, that you got that permission, I guess. Yeah. JP Got Rocket says the Grey Knights are super easy to paint. Lead Belcher spray, dry brush mithril, then wash with blue. Sure, yeah, that's a quick way to get them done. I generally don't, like, when I paint mine, I don't know if I'm going to do with the bluish silver. I might just stick with a more mid-range silver. Like, I don't want to do a warm silver, but I kind of don't want to do a blue silver either. I'm not exactly sure how I'm going to do it yet. But they'll be silver. Oh, yes. Liam says, "Any tips for spraying Chaos Black when it stops spraying halfway through? I tried shaking it for a long time and it still doesn't work. Is it the weather?" It could be the weather. It depends on what the weather is that you're talking about. Sometimes, like if rattle cans get real cold, the propellant, I think, and I'm no rattle can scientist, but I think the propellant will compress or shrink almost, and then it won't, it doesn't want to like leave the can when you spray. I mean, it could be just the actual spray nozzle is clogged. That's a possibility too, but it could be the weather. Yeah. I mean, I've never had a problem where the can didn't want to spray unless it was because it was too cold. Like humidity doesn't seem to have that problem. Humidity causes other problems sometimes to the actual paint when it hits the model, but I've never had the humidity make it so that the can doesn't want to spray. If it's a can not wanting to spray, it's frequently because it's too cold. Like if you see if you ever use like canned air to like blow all the dust and stuff out of your computer or your keyboard and stuff like that, that compressed air stuff. If you spray for too long, the can gets really cold in your hand, and it will get to a point where it won't want to spray much anymore. And then you have to kind of let it warm up a bit, and then you can go back to spraying. So it could be that, depending on what your weather is that you're talking about there. Joe says, greetings from Connecticut. My wife and I are just getting into Age of Sigmar. 90% of the Soul Wars stuff is painted, and we're having our first battle later today. Well, congratulations. That's excellent. Yeah, that's I got to get back to my Soul Wars stuff because I want to add a bunch of those spooky boys to my Death Army. I liked painting those a lot, and I saw a lot of really good ones at the Las Vegas Open. If you follow me on Instagram, I should make a little button that I could hit that makes the Instagram thing up, but it's just Tabletop Minions on Instagram. I posted one of the... He likes the show, and he's on the Paint Showcase Club and stuff like that. Bleep Bloop, I think he goes by Bill Bloop or something like that on Facebook. And he had this amazing Night Haunt type style army that he won like best painted in the Age of Sigmar tournament. And that tournament was, I don't know, 130 or 140 people. So yeah, really, really great stuff. If you go take a look at the Instagram when you get the chance, the really amazing looking paint. A lot of people saying warm the rattle can in warm to hot water first before you spray. I can see that. That's making a lot of sense. Charlie Frost says, hey, from London, just started again. After many years of not playing or painting with a Gloomspite Gits army. Super fun models to build and paint. The Mangler Squig is awesome. Yeah, those... My wife is interested in the Gits a bit. So, yeah, that's... I mean, we're going to start with Warhammer Underworlds. The Zarbags Gits, or whatever that little box set is. And we'll see how that goes, too, so... Torch says that you can turn the can upside down and spray just to clear the paint. It just shoots propellant and clears the nozzle. That is true. If you've got a bit of a clogged nozzle on your rattle can, if you turn it upside down and spray it, it will not spray paint. It'll just spray propellant, and that can hopefully like blow any issues out of the nozzle and all that kind of stuff. So, yeah. Wubda says, how long after a model or squad goes out of print do they get phased out of the codex? I don't think that there's a specific timeline. I've never seen them say, well, 6 months or a year or anything like that. I think it sort of just happens. And, it depends also on how frequently they update the codex too. So if it's in the current codex, it's good, even though it might be out of print. But then when the next codex comes out, if it's not in there, well, then it's no longer good, I guess. With the indexes, that's a little weird, and I don't know what the ruling is on that. Like when the indexes first came out, when 8th came out, saying, here's all the new stats for everybody, we made these indexes. And then you could use the index until you got a codex, but there was also you could still use the index on certain things, even though you did get a codex, like your particular army. And I don't know what the ruling is on that, because basically I got codexes that I needed and I just ignored the indexes from there. But there were people who were like, well, I would still like to use this index model instead of whatever. And I don't know what the ruling is on that. Some of you in the chat might be able to answer that better. But yeah. Liam says, I just started playing Imperial Guard and I don't really like some of the models, so I found some custom made models for sale online and I was wondering if there are downsides to using them. I mean, if you want to play in a tournament that is, I think, sponsored by Games Workshop or run by Games Workshop, you kind of have to use their models. If you're going to play in a tournament at a local store, let's say, or something like that, then you want to talk to the tournament organizer and see if it's cool. Like if it's a local, like independent store, not a Games Workshop store. If it's a Games Workshop store, they want you to play with their stuff. But if it's some other place, you'll be fine. If you're playing just with your friends and things like that, shouldn't be a problem. There are plenty of companies out there that do make nice models that would work quite well in much of the Imperial Guard line, and go down that direction. So let me see here. We've got moderator Matt in the chat, and he is checking in, which I appreciate. And let me see, what else have we got here? Where else are we? Jeremy asks, where is the best hobby store in Wisconsin? That's a good question. I've not been to them all. There's a lot, as it turns out. When we were first getting the store listing set up for Game 4, I did just kind of a preliminary search of within 50 miles of the office. And at the time, there were nearly 100 stores within 50 miles, or was it 50 stores within 100 miles? Maybe it was 50 stores within 100 miles, because 100 stores within 50 miles seems like a lot. But 100 miles then goes all the way down to Milwaukee, and there's a lot of stores in Milwaukee and Madison and stuff like that. Yeah, it was 50 stores on 100 miles. But still, for a 100-mile radius around Appleton, Wisconsin, that's a lot of hobby stores. So we have a lot here. I don't know what the best one is, honestly. I've never really been to any of the stores over like on the west side of Wisconsin, La Crosse and Eau Claire and those places like that. I mean, Green Bay, I've been to, I think, all the hobby stores in Green Bay, and I've been to all of them in Appleton and all of them in Oshkosh and all of them in Fond du Lac, and I don't think I've been to all of them in Milwaukee. I'm sure there's at least a couple I haven't been to, so, but yeah. DJ Todd P. Harris says, good morning all. I prefer airbrushing to prime my miniatures because some rattle can primers don't work well with some materials. That is true to some degree. Like, I know there are some rattle cans that don't work great with metal. I've seen that before myself. But yeah, it depends on, again, what I'm airbrushing, what I'm trying to prime. If I'm trying to prime models, if I have a few of them, airbrush all the way. Or if it's really cold out or whatever, airbrush all the way. If I'm doing a whole bunch of them and I have a rattle can primer that will work well as a primer and also as a base color, like if I was doing Imperial Guard and I wanted them to have the tan kind of jackets or pants and all that kind of stuff, I would use one of the Krylon camo colors. And if I had a bunch of them, which with Guard you generally do, I will rattle can that outside if I can, because if the weather's okay. Today's not a day. Not this month is a good day. And for terrain, I generally like to use rattle can because it kind of goes quicker and whatever. And it sticks better if I use like a decent Krylon kind of fusion-y type, stuff. It sticks to the plastic. All that being said, I probably get the best coverage and the smoothest coverage with airbrush primer, and I can also get it in all the nooks and crannies, and I can also just do maybe 2 or 3 models and not feel like I'm wasting a bunch of spray paint. So yeah, there's different things, like trying to sit down and prime a big piece of terrain with an airbrush it takes a long time. When I did the panels, and you guys haven't seen these yet, they're not finished either, but the Realm of Battle board panels, I primed 2 of them, and they're 2 foot by 2 foot squares with all kinds of detail and stuff on it. That I did with rattle can out in the driveway, because trying to just get a 2 foot square and airbrush it all and try to get it coated with primer, that's not going to work out super hot. But like a little, a model or anything like that, you can really kind of get into all the nooks and crannies, which is hard to do with rattle can. It's very difficult sometimes to try to get, like if they're holding a shield kind of close, get the primer up underneath the shield, so that kind of stuff. It's really difficult to do with rattle can, but easy to do with an airbrush. So there's that. What else have we got? Got my Resident Evil 2 board game Kickstarter last week. Tons of minis to paint. Speaking of which, it's probably a good time to be doing them. VJ Morph also decided after TMX I'm going to head over to Minneapolis to check out Paisley Park. Big Prince fan. Oh, nice. Yeah. That would be cool. Yeah. Man, I haven't been to Minneapolis in forever. I should go again. Speaking of TMX, that right there. I fixed this finally. So TMX is coming up June 8th and 9th, 2019 in Oshkosh, Wisconsin. You can find out more about it at tabletopminions.org/TMX. TMX is the Tabletop Minions Expo. It's kind of like very, 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 very small mini, tabletop wargaming convention, and it is it being an expo. There's no tournaments, there's no real competition and type of stuff like that. What it is you come and learn how to play specific games. The game masters come and run things, and you get lots of demos and learn to do stuff and things like that. If you're interested in running some demos there of some games, you can go onto the website, and there's a form you can fill out now, and we can start an event that way. All that kind of stuff. So, it's June 8th and 9th, 2019, Oshkosh, Wisconsin. VJ Morph will be there, coming all the way from Australia. So, check that out when you get the chance if you're interested. And it's a fun time. I'm pretty sure Sam's going to be there and other people as well, which is vague, but there it is. Let me see here. Alexander asks, Iowata Eclipse Neo or Pistol Grip Neo as the first airbrush for a beginner? I mean, they're all decent brushes. I don't think that, because the Eclipse is probably the most expensive one. The Eclipse has not got any kind of, big learning curve in comparison to the Neo. There's not a lot of, I don't know why the Neo and the Eclipse, I think maybe the Eclipse is just done to tighter tolerances, maybe, or something like that. Both of them are good brushes. If you've got the money to spend on the Eclipse, you might want to just do that right up front. That being said, I have a Neo and an Eclipse, and what I use my Neo for is mostly for varnishing, and then I use my Eclipse for the actual paint and primer and stuff like that. You could also make it so that your primer brush is your Neo, and then that's also your varnish brush, and then your regular paint, if you get real fancy, is your Eclipse. But yeah, the other big benefit to having two brushes or even more brushes like that is then you don't have to sit there and switch needles all the time. Like the pro painters that I've seen that are really into airbrush, they just have a bunch of different airbrushes because then they don't have to completely take apart the brush, put in a different needle, put the different nozzle in there because they need a smaller needle or a bigger needle. They just go, okay, and they just unscrew this one and then put in one with a bigger needle or whatever, and then it works out well for them, and it speeds things up because they're looking for efficiencies because they probably paint for a living in some fashion. So yeah. Next year live from the convention, what do you think? If you mean live from TMX, I can give it a try. I don't know. The last 2 years have not worked real great, so I'm not quite sure what we'll do, but we'll see how it goes. Speaking of TMX, I was going to try to make it this year, but the flights are way too expensive from Tampa. That's understandable. Absolutely. Because you're basically flying into... you could fly into Milwaukee, but then you're renting a car. In any situation, you're kind of renting a car, most likely. Appleton is the closest airport. It's a smaller one, but still that's where I work. And I live and this is going on in Oshkosh, which is about 25 minutes away by car. So, yeah. Corpus Games Terrain says, did you ever get to use the 3D printed Kill Team stuff, Kill Team stuff that I sent? Not as of yet. I've looked through it, and it's very cool. I have not gotten any of it painted yet because I've been getting a bunch of other figures painted. I want to get some terrain stuff done, and I'm looking at that stuff because it's very nicely done. And so my only concern is I kind of want to spray it more with rattle can Krylon as opposed to using my airbrush. And right now it's gross outside because it's very cold and all that stuff. But yeah, that's definitely it's very nice stuff. And I did not get a chance, sadly. Corvus had Games Terrain had some stuff for Star Wars Legion at Las Vegas Open, but they put Star Wars Legion so that like everything was all on the main floor, except there was also stuff on the 26th floor of the hotel and there was no signage. So I didn't find out until the day after the Star Wars Legion tournament that that's where the Star Wars Legion tournament was, up on the 26th floor, where there was no signs to tell you that that's where other stuff was. By the time that I got up there, they had switched over to 30K. So I unfortunately did not get to see any of that cool stuff, which is a bummer. I do wish that they had a little bit more signage, but that would have been good. So yeah. Brian Griffith says, we'll know TMX has arrived when Adam arranges a GW preview night. Oh, there you go. We could do, maybe instead, we could do a Rec Age preview night. Matt could show you some new models coming out, maybe. That'd be cool. If we're going to do it at night, we could just do it in a bar. That's probably a good idea, too. So anyway, King Bread says, I have both Neo and Eclipse. I use the Neo for priming and varnish and an Eclipse for paint. See, I don't use my Neo for priming, although I probably ought to. But yeah, kind of having those two separate brushes is sort of nice. Gaddis Gaming is in the chat. TMX is one of the best and friendliest events that I go to every year. Gaddis Gaming will be there running demos of our guards rules. Well, that's good to hear. I'm glad that you enjoyed it. We always enjoy having you. And I know that Matt from work, from Game 4, he is working on getting his Shattered Crown. They're nearly done, but after Friday's video where I talked about making airbrush stencils, now he wants to do some stenciling airbrush stuff on his tank. So we talked a little bit about that actually on Friday. So yeah, definitely, that's very cool. What else have we got here? Jesse Daniel says, the funny part is Oshkosh has a large airport but doesn't do commercial flights. Yeah, well, it's not a large airport. It's a long runway. Oshkosh has a runway that's over a mile. It's like 6,000 feet. And the reason for that is because Oshkosh has this huge fly-in. It's like one of the largest air shows in the world. And so basically the county that owns the airport kept extending the runway so bigger and bigger planes could come and land. So, Oshkosh is about 75,000 people roughly, but Qantas has flown here direct with a 747. We've had SR-71s land here. We've had last year or 2 years ago was the B-2, B-52 as well, B-1, other big ass planes. Concorde. Yeah, Concorde used to come here. Like when I was a kid growing up, like in the late 80s, early 90s, well, or even earlier, the Concorde was like the big deal that would show up nearly every year, to the point where we were like, ugh, we're getting tired of the Concorde. You lived in Oshkosh, but you're like, ugh, the Concorde again, really? Seriously? They can't find something cooler to bring to the big air show? And it was really crazy loud when it would fly around town. Yeah, so there's that. Anyway, so that's why there's a really, really big, huge, long airport and all that stuff. But it's predominantly just FedEx and UPS and a bunch of other stuff. A lot of flight instruction going on there, too. I guess there used to be, like years and years and years ago, it used to be commercial. But now, people flights and stuff like that, but not so much anymore. Matthew Sears, moderator Matt, says you can always take the Greyhound to Oshkosh, maybe delouse after. Well, yes, Matt would know about taking the Greyhound to Oshkosh. I'm not sure if he knows about the delousing, really, but we'll see. Excuse me. I got something stuck in my throat. Do you think Star Wars Legion is worth the investment? I mean, as I say a lot of times, it depends. It depends on how much you like Star Wars, depends on how much you like the game. I thought the game system was interesting. That being said, I didn't like the models, as I've gone over a couple of times before. Like, I don't like most of the Imperial models, at least the early ones. Maybe they've gotten better, but the normal Imperial models just didn't do it for me, so that's why I didn't get into it. Yeah. Briella says, my family goes to Oshkosh every year for EA AirVenture. That's the big show I was talking about. Unfortunately, I don't think I'd have much luck convincing anyone to go to TMX 1 month before AirVenture. Well, yeah, that's true. Well, it's actually almost 2 months because AirVenture is always at the end of July and TMX is the beginning of June. So, yeah, I can understand that. Let's see, what else have we got here? Do you plan on making any showcase videos for your kill teams? I know a lot of people appreciate those. I might. I mean, I guess I hadn't thought of it, but I might. I don't know exactly what that would entail. I mean, I've kicked around so. I've been doing the hobby progress vlogs, and I wanted to have one last Monday, but I got back from the Las Vegas Open at I don't know. I had been up for 30 hours. I took a red eye out of Vegas so I can check that off my bucket list. That was stupid of me to do that. I should have scheduled things differently. Nonetheless, I got home on Monday and I was just absolutely kind of crushed and tired, and I went to bed because my original plan was to get the video done beforehand, before I even left for Vegas, and then that did not work out, sadly. I got the Friday video done, that was fine, but the Monday I could not get both of them done the same day and edited and all that stuff because they still had to pack and all that jazz. So it's going to be coming not tomorrow, but the next Monday. It will be the final one of the first Hobby Progress videos with the Iron Jaws boys. So, yeah, that'll be a thing, but I don't know. I might do if I did a showcase video, it would be showing the models and then explaining why I did them that way or how I did them that way. Whereas the Hobby Progress vlogs is I think I'm going to do it this way, and then video 2 is I did it this way, and I'm going to finish it up probably this way, and then you see how it actually works out, and you can kind of see how I end up having to change things from time to time, which everyone has to do. Like when you have an idea and then you start working on it, things will change. So yeah, that's not a bad idea. I've got other ideas as well for those Monday videos, but yeah, we'll see how it goes. Liam asks, have you ever been to the Noble Knights store just south of Madison? No, I haven't. I know that they're down there. I've never been to their store. And I think they just moved, didn't they? Didn't they get a new store or a new facility or something like that? Yeah. Gaddis Gaming says, I'm going to jump into Star Wars Legion when they come out with the Clone Wars era armies. Oh, I didn't even know they were going to do that. Are they going to do that? That's kind of interesting. I hope that they kind of don't do what the original Star Wars miniatures game, the little pre-paints from WizKids. No, not WizKids. Wizards of the Coast. 10 years ago, they made this game. And it was random pack. And, anyway, the downside was that you would have, regular, A New Hope Star Wars dudes fighting against Clone Wars or Jar Jar Binks dudes and stuff like that. And that was, to me, a little weird. But, what are you going to do? Let me see here. What else have we got? Do you think the Seraphon and Fire Slayers might get a new battle tome soon? I don't know. I haven't heard anything, and I don't know. I mean, because they both do have battle tomes, so I don't know if they'll be making new ones soon or not. I don't, because at this point now, most of the armies, from what I understand at Age of Sigmar, most of them have a new battle tome in some fashion. And they've added some tweaking Beast of Chaos and things like that, which, but now, I don't know. That's a good question. I don't know if they're going to now say, okay, well, now we're going to start making new ones. I mean, they've done multiple battle tomes with Stormcast, but they've all been slightly different in some fashion. But yeah, I don't know. That's a good question. Let me see here. Well, let me see. What are we talking about? Sean says, can anyone tell if direct sunlight will damage the paint job on my minis? I just moved my display cabinet nearer the window, and looking at how much direct light hits them is worrying. I would be worried about that, honestly. I would. We have a bookcase that kind of can get hit by the sun, and I've definitely noticed. I mean, it's not, we don't leave the good books in there. We just have a bunch of paperback type stuff and things like that are just kind of there because we need to put them someplace. And over time, I have noticed that the sun can definitely bleach them. My local game shop that I go to, and their old location used to have a bunch of games kind of in the window, and you would see those get bleached, not quickly, but over time, definitely. You could definitely tell which ones had been in the window and which ones had not. So yeah, I would I would honestly not want to put my models in a case that could get hit by direct sunlight, because I think over time, and frankly, if any of them are fine cast, you could easily see them get sort of bendy. There's that sort of infamous. It was a it was a it was an image that went all over the internet for a while amongst us wargamers when Finecast first came out. A kid built, I think it was Gandalf on Shadowfax, his horse, and built it out of Finecast, and then had it sitting on his desk in his bedroom, and then went to school or something, and came back, and the sun had hit it for like a good portion of the day, and it had basically made the whole thing collapse, like the horse's legs and everything just sort of melted, and everything just kind of blurb. So that is a concern if you've got any Finecast as well. Corvus Games Terrain says, I think Clone Wars might get a release date at Gen Con. They already announced that they're going to go Clone Wars. They're releasing some of the Rogue One stuff this month. Oh, I didn't realize that. That's kind of interesting. Huh. Well, that'll be interesting. I'll be at Gen Con, so maybe I'll get to see some of the new stuff. That'll be cool. I mean, again, like I said, I thought that the rules were pretty cool. I loved the way that the order cards worked, when you wanted to start. I'm always looking for something that's better than let's both roll and see who gets to go first. And then, kind of like 40K, but then it's like that way for the entire game. At least in Kill Team and Age of Sigmar, you're rolling every turn. But I do prefer, I like the, bolt action / conflict 47 way of like reaching into the dice bag and pulling out, either my dice or your dice. And I like the way that you're kind of bidding to try to, like you have these cards that come with your army basically, and you bid to see if you can go first. But if you win, like the cards with the higher numbers, which are more likely for you to win the bidding, are a little bit more restricted on what you then can actually activate in that turn. And I like that kind of thing. I think it's well done. Wubda Wubwub says, do you have any experience with Sakura? I don't know how to pronounce that properly. Pigma Micron pens. Any tips? Yes, I have used those particular markers before. I've used them for drawing a little bit here and there, but I also bought a really tiny, super .005 or .05 or something like that tip. They're like felt tip markers, but really super fine, very technical detail kind of thing. And I bought those. I bought a 5-pack maybe of slightly different colors. Mainly, honestly, the whole use for it was I wanted to be able to write on scrolls. So you've got you've got a character that's holding up like a staff. It's got a scroll down it. And instead of trying to paint little scratches to look like letters and words and lines of text, I wanted to use something that was a little bit more controllable to me. So I used this super, super fine. The only downside to those, in my opinion, is that you're almost too high contrast because they do such a good job of coding. So if you use the tiny little letters and you do it, and because they make a sepia color, they make a black and all that kind of stuff. So if you use the sepia or the black, it's still so sharp in comparison to if you tried to use a paint. But I think that what you can do is that once you write the little scratches and whatever and do the scroll with that tiny, tiny little point on that tiny, tiny little marker, if you then throw some washes over it, whether it's maybe a sepia wash, or what I would really probably do if I was going to do it again, I would use the Secret Weapon miniatures. They make washes. Secret Weapon washes, I think is what they're called. And one of the colors is called parchment. And I would probably put that over, once the ink had completely dried, because I'm pretty sure it's waterproof. Once it was completely dried, I would then put a couple of layers of parchment over it, because then it would dull down the marker ink, and that would make it all kind of look a little bit better. If I had to do it again, don't have any pictures right now of the model I did it on, but I made my own. If you're familiar in Chaos, the Dark Apostle, which is basically a Chaos chaplain, the model for it, they only ever made it in Finecast, and I never liked it. So I made my own out of kit bashing a whole bunch of other different parts. But I did have he's got this staff, and then there's this this scroll that's hanging down the staff, and I wanted to write a bunch of stuff on there and put a bunch of chaos stars and all that. So I have used those markers, but only the super, super, super fine ones, and only for little tiny details like that. But like I said, they do have a tendency to stand out more than you would expect. So you have to figure out some sort of way to maybe dull them down. Adam, what do you think of the new box game reviews from the NYC Toy Show? So I saw the Games Workshop, they sent out an email, and I forget what the hell. I should have looked on the. I should have had that set up on the web thingy so we could take a look at it. There's a simpler version of Warhammer Underworlds, and I forget what the heck it's called. Something Fane, I think. That is not something I'm probably going to pick up. It's aimed towards newer players, or it's aimed towards trying to basically get people into Shadespire, which is cool. But it's not necessarily like everything that was coming out of the toy show looks like it's stuff that's aimed at like very, very beginner people. It's very gateway gamey stuff, and that's cool. I mean, I already think that normal Shadespire and Night Vault is gateway enough, but they wanted to make another. I mean, it's almost kind of like the stuff that they put out last year, like Blitz Bowl and that Necron Space Marine thing that they did. I think it's along those lines, but that's cool. I mean, it's cool that they're doing that stuff. So, what else have we got here? Where else are we? Let me see here. Do you have any tips on making your own narrative games for Age of Sigmar to be more RPG-ish? I don't. I've never done that. I think it would be kind of cool to do it, but I don't know. Like, I'm sometimes a little surprised, honestly, that Games Workshop doesn't do some of that stuff, like put out some maybe free, narrative type campaigns I was just talking about gateway games. So they're definitely interested in trying to get board gamers kind of into, wargaming. I'm interested that they almost never seem to try to get the opposite gateway, where they try to get role players into wargaming. I mean, there's a 40K role-playing game now done by... I forget who it's done by. It's not the Fantasy Flight one. Fantasy Flight did a bunch of them for a while, and now it's some other company called Wrath and Glory. But yeah, it's interesting, because you would think that type of stuff might help you to then convince your role-playing friends, hey, let's play this, and it's kind of like a role-playing game, but it's got a bunch of models. But they haven't gone in that direction that I've seen too much. A bunch of people are saying that game that I was talking about is called Dreadfane, so I had the word Fane in. I should have just thought that the word Dread or Dead or something like that should have been in there. But yeah, Dreadfane. So yeah, it's like like I said, it's like a beginner's version of Shadespire or Night Vault, and so that's kind of interesting. Yeah. Poppy Appletree says, I feel you on not liking the Dark Apostle model. I converted my own from the Champion model from Dark Vengeance. It's one of my proudest conversions. I still need to give him a good chest detail. I think I used like legs from Dark Angels. So they got those kind of cloak kind of covered legs. And I may have used the same kind of chest piece, but I think I used some sort of Chaos chest piece. Or actually, no, I kind of think of Chaos torso. And then like regular Chaos arms, Chaos shoulder pads. And then the head was like a no helmet, kind of just bald, like screaming guy head. That was, you get a lot of those in different Games Workshop stuff, especially Chaos. I forget what the staff was 2 pieces. It was like a staff from something else where I cut off the top, and then I put like a Chaos symbol thing on top of it. And it was actually a fun conversion to do. It's all painted up. That would be one of those videos where it's maybe like a little showcase, you know what I mean? So you could see, hey, these are the parts, and this is what I did. And that'd be kind of cool. It would have been cooler if I would have filmed it when I was doing it. But seriously, I built that model probably... I built that model easily 5 years ago, and then didn't paint it for a really long time, and then about 2 years ago finally painted it. So, why don't we talk about some things that I brought back from the Las Vegas Open? So, the Las Vegas Open was last week, like Thursday to Sunday, and I just barely made it there. I flew out of Milwaukee on Thursday morning around 11, just before the ice storm hit. And then I got to Minneapolis, and there was a blizzard. But Minneapolis airport is kind of used to that. So the blizzard wasn't going to slow us down. What slowed us down was the fact that the crew for the plane that I was then taking out to Las Vegas was stuck at a different airport that was not used to blizzards. So we didn't, like, I was supposed to fly out of Minneapolis like at 2:30 in the afternoon, and we didn't fly out till 6. I had a media panel. I was part of a media panel. That was my first thing at the Las Vegas Open, and it was at 8:15 that night. And I got to the casino with my luggage. Like, got out of the lift, or lift. It's like LYFT, not elevator. Anyway. At 8 o'clock or 8:02. So I just basically like got to the Bally and just walked my luggage directly to wherever the thing was, and then just left my luggage in the corner. Did a media panel for, I don't know, it was me and Jeff Robinson. I think I got his last name right. I know his first name's Jeff. Jeff Robinson, he's In Control TV, I think is what he is on Twitch, and he was more of a video game commentator, and now he and Frankie are the commentators for Warhammer TV. They do like the commentators during the big streams for the big tournaments and whatnot. And who else was there? Jonathan from FNP, which is a podcast, I think. Kenny Boucher, Rob Bear. I know there was somebody else that I think I'm forgetting. But there was us, and then it was moderated by Blake and Ed from Life After the Cover Save, which is a great podcast. Anyway, so yeah, we were there hanging out, and people were asking questions. There were probably 30 people in the audience or so it wasn't big. But I just barely got there. Sam, sadly, did not make it to Las Vegas Open. He had 3 or 4 or 5 classes planned and all that stuff, but he was flying out of O'Hare a little bit later in the day on that Thursday, and by about the time that my flight was leaving Milwaukee, his flight, which was later in the day, like at 6 o'clock, got canceled. So he tried to schedule a different flight. That one got canceled. And then like the next flight he could have gotten he would have had to have left. He would have flown out of O'Hare like at 3:30 in the morning on Friday. And then he would have gotten to Vegas about a half hour late for his first class. In a perfect world, if everything worked, he would have still gotten there late. And if there would have been any delays, he would have been gotten there any later. And so he was just like, I'm not going to make it. That's one of the downsides of having a convention at least in the United States, in February, is that people who have to fly there from the Midwest, it is a total crapshoot whether we'll make it or not. Or whether at the very least, whether we'll make it on time. So that's a bummer. Anyway, so Gaddis Gaming asks, who has the better swag bag, Adepticon or Las Vegas Open? There's no swag bag for Las Vegas Open, so I guess it's Adepticon. That's kind of not the thing that they do there. Anyway, so finally got there, did the media panel, all that stuff, got my hotel room after the media panel, and then Friday, mainly what I was there to do is on Friday night, like 6 to 7, I did a seminar about YouTube, like more technical stuff. Saturday night, same time, 6 to 7, I did one more about branding and content and digital strategy and marketing and stuff like that for your YouTube channel. Same kind of things I'm going to be talking about at Adepticon this year. And those were good. There was not a lot of people. There wasn't a lot of signage, and so it was kind of hard for people to figure out where the thing was going to be and at what time. And there was some kind of organizational issues, which I hope that they're able to fix, at least with the hobby seminars and stuff like that. Otherwise, the tournaments and all that jazz seemed to be run quite well, and they were huge. The 40K championship was, from what I heard, somewhere between 700 and 800 players, which is massive. But yeah, it was very cool. And then there was a decent-sized vendor hall. If you've ever been to Adepticon, I would say it's maybe about half the size of Adepticon's vendor area. But there was some cool stuff. So let me show you some of it. I thought that I still had the second camera that I used to use plugged in, and I don't know where it is, as it turns out. So I'm going to have to hold stuff up, and you're going to have to sort of look at it. I can't get like a close-up view, because if I show it close like this, see, then it's all blurry, so it's not going to work out. But let's see. So there's a company called Game Envy that makes something called the Hobby Holder, which I picked one up at Nova Open, this one. So it's a little tiny, it's like a thing you hold on to. You take a soda bottle cap and you screw it on there. You've got the little thing that you can screw that on there with. And you use like blue tack or poster putty to stick your model to the little cap. And then now you've got something to hold, right? And then you've also got this grip on top. So if you're trying to paint, you could like hold it and you've got a little bit more of a handle, and then you can paint this way. So that's what the whole idea of the hobby holder is. Well, they've made a bigger one now. So it's got a taller, this thing, whatever that is. Like if I actually put them side by side, you can see the difference in height. But they've also now made this plastic handle. So now you're holding it like this, and then you can, you've got all kinds of different options on how to hold it and do stuff and paint. And again, it uses the same thing where you screw on a bottle. So, yeah, Game Envy is the name of the company, and this is the hobby holder from what I understand. And it's very interesting. Like, I like the Games Workshop little holders with the pinchy thing, and I kind of wish I could figure out a way to put that head of the pinchy thing on this, and that would be nearly perfect. It's got a nice wide base, so it doesn't tip over very easily when you set it down. I mean, this thing is really sort of nice, like holding when you're trying to like sometimes this is hard, but having just like a taller area where you can really kind of grip and hold and whatever, it's a nice thing, especially if your hands shake a little bit or something like that. Having something that's good to grip, and it can really help you to get very good control as you're painting on stuff. So that's why I picked one of these up. What else? There was a store there that was selling a ton of stuff from AK Interactive, which is sort of higher end kind of hobby stuff. This is standard hobby putty, which is supposed to be good for fill gaps for perfect assembly. Superfine filler with good adhesion and sanding properties on plastic. So I want to see if this works better than liquid green stuff for filling gaps. And there was a bunch of other stuff actually from AK Interactive that I wanted to buy there, but the bottles were a little large to the point where I thought, am I going to get hassled going back through TSA with like bottles of fluid in my luggage? Because I didn't check a bag. I just it was, carry on. And so I was just like, I mean, I might have been okay, but I didn't want to chance it. I can buy most of that stuff online, but honestly, I had never seen this putty before. So I picked that up. I haven't tried it yet, as you can tell, because it's still not open. Games Workshop / Forge World was there, and they had a booth, and the only thing I really picked up from them was they have this set, it's called Stormcast Eternals Heads Upgrade Set 2, and it's all women. It's all women's heads, and so I'll be able to put that on some of my Stormcast when I eventually actually buy my Stormcast, or build my Stormcast army. They're bought, but when I do that, I want to be able to make some of them. These cool heads. They're just really, I mean, they're not really big or anything like that. They're in there, but they're cool. What else? So there's a company called, what are they called? Moment? I don't know. They're a paint company, and they are now, they either merged with or bought or something like that. Creature Caster. Creature Caster's out of Canada. They make these amazing resin, like big models of like really cool, chaos demons and this and that, and there's just a bunch of scary, crazy stuff. If you've been watching Sam paint on Twitch, he's painted some of their stuff. And this is a company called, I don't even know what the heck they're called. Monument Hobbies. And they've made their own acrylic paint line. And I had a long conversation with the guy at the booth talking about like what they do and all that stuff. And I wanted to try it out. And a white, like a good, nice, solid white that actually has titanium in it. He's like, yeah, this, because he was an artist kind of guy, and I went to school for art, so he's like, oh, it's actual titanium white, not just like, all right, well, I'm interested in that. So I picked that up. The only thing I'm a little concerned about is that it's not a, like, you don't unscrew and squirt, like in a normal, like, Vallejo or any other dropper bottle where you actually take the lid off and then squirt. This is kind of like it's like the top on what is it, the spicy stuff, sriracha, where you turn it and then you squirt it out and then you turn it back down to tighten it back down, and then I think that you're going to get a lot of paint and goop on top of here. So I'm not sure about that, but I definitely want to try this out. Again, it's Monument Hobbies. They do, they're Monument Hobbies / Creature Caster seem to be the same company now. They were selling Creature Caster stuff there in that same booth too, but they also had a whole paint line. I just picked up the white because I want to try it out, and I don't know, we'll see. Maybe there'll be a new paint, line that I really like. Right now, it's predominantly I either use Citadel stuff, Vallejo stuff, some Reaper, Secret Weapon miniatures, and Army Painter. So, what else? Oh, there's a company called either Mr. Laser or MR Laser. I'm not sure. They're on Etsy though, and they had a cool kit that they were selling that was a laser cut like MDF, or maybe it was balsa, but it was a box, and it was full of stuff for Gaslands. It was like $50, and it had Gaslands logo on it, and it had all the dice and the counters and the little, what do you call them, the turn rulers and all that cool stuff. And I was like, that's really cool, but it's not going to fit in my luggage. But I did get from them, this is a little set of, and you can kind of see it, but not quite. This is for Kill Team. These are, you know how you have the tokens that you put down? You say, oh, I'm readied, or I moved, or I charged, or all those different tokens. All those symbols are on these dice. So you can just put the die down and say, yep, I'm ready. And then when you shoot, you turn it over to, oh, I shot, or hey, I did this, or I did that. And then you don't, because those tokens are kind of large, and they can take up a decent amount of space, whereas you just put these little dice next to your guys, and then it's very easy to see what you did, and you don't have to go find a different token and all that kind of stuff. So it's kind of cool. I'm going to try them out with a game, and then I might buy more, because right now I don't think I have any kill teams that are only 5 guys. The smallest ones I have are 6. So unfortunately, they've only got 5 in there. But yeah, it's either MR Laser or Mr. Laser, and it's on Etsy, and they do a whole line of stuff. But these are laser etched; they're not printed on there, which is so it won't rub off, I don't think, because it's laser etched. What else? Oh, got a sweet dice bag, a little Chaos dice bag over here, which is made out of, I don't think it's made out of leather. It's suede though. I don't know what it is, but it's a nice, and it's lined on the inside. It's got a separate, it's like a separate liner in there. So it's really like, this is not suede. This is more of a not suede. I don't know what the heck it is, but it's very nice, very thick, durable. It's got the little, and then it's got these things here, which you can pinch and then tighten it down so your dice don't fall out if they're on both sides. Yeah, this was a company called, I want to say Misty Mountain. I'm not 100% sure, but these were very nice dice bags, and they had lots of different ones. I picked out the Chaos one because that's what I'm going to do. TT Combat, who own Drop Zone Commander and those things. They own a bunch of different properties. Rumble Slam, which is a wrestling game, and a whole bunch of other things. They also do a lot of laser cut MDF, and they're also starting to now do some resin stuff too. And they were there. They had a big booth. And I picked up, I don't know if you can see these very well. So this is a Tabletop Scenics, and they're basically like little embellishments to put on the terrain that you're building. Like, these are like vents that you would put on the roof, like air conditioning type vents, and these are like exhaust vents and like little panels, and they're just all these little parts, and they're all made out of resin, like computer panels that you would stick to the wall, vents that like air would come through and stuff like that. Just little embellishments that make your terrain look a lot better. And I looked at these and I was like, those are pretty cool, and they will probably fit in my luggage. That's one of the downsides to traveling to go to these things, is that I've talked to some people who say I take a carry-on and I take a bigger bag that I'm going to check, and then I put the carry-on into the check bag, which is empty. And then when I get to the convention, I fill up the check bag full of stuff that I bought, and when I go back, I check that bag, and then I have a carry-on. And I'm like, I might have to do that next time. But the thing is, I don't think that I don't know that my carry-on bag will fit inside because it's wide. Anyway, so this is cool stuff. I bought like 2 packs of these, so I have them. I didn't buy any other stuff, but they had like all kinds of like scatter terrain pieces and stuff like that. Like, if you want to have like a dirty mattress like on the ground in your like post-apocalyptic kind of game, they had those. They had old couches and things like that. They had vending machines. They had like a couple of vending machines that would have easily worked in any kind of Fallout style game, like all that kind of jazz. Could have been Nuka-Cola easy, but it didn't say Nuka-Cola on it. But yeah, TT Combat made some pretty cool stuff. And they had a lot of laser cut MDF that looked real nice too, but like I said, I didn't want to go back and forth with it. There was another company there called Every Little War. Oh shoot, I left that in the other thing. Well, they made it anyway. They make a bunch of stuff. One of the things that Every Little War does that's very cool, they work with a bunch of overseas companies that make laser cut MDF. The problem is if you live in Australia and you make laser cut MDF, it is expensive and heavy to ship laser cut MDF, say like to America or to Europe or to Canada or whatever. But it's very, very simple to just email those laser cut MDF designs to another company, let's say in America, Every Little War, and then have them laser cut the stuff and then sell it under your name through their website as a licensed thing. So that's what Every Little War does, is they crank out a bunch of really cool stuff for companies that are overseas that don't want to have to ship MDF all over, so they just basically send the file, and then those guys print it, or not print it, but cut it here. And I picked up a super cool, what is it? It's like a range ruler, like where it's 6 inches one way and then like 3 inches here and whatever. But it was a lot of times those range rulers, those acrylic range rulers, are just like laser etched so that you can have some words and stuff on them. Well, these were printed on, and it was super, super sturdy print. It was really cool, and it was for the Las Vegas Open. It had the little dude, had this guy, over here, the little green dude, on there and stuff, and it was very well done. So I talked to him a little bit about maybe making some Tabletop Minions ones, so that could be coming soon. I'll post a picture of I forgot not to, it's not in my pile of stuff here, but I'll post a picture of that range ruler thing, and I'm thinking about working with them to do some designs. Anyway, what else did I pick? Green Stuff World, they weren't there, but there was a company there, Dad's Army, that sells a lot of their stuff, because this stuff is all from Spain, I think. Anyway, these rolls, these are like little molds, and you make like a little snake of green stuff, and then you put it in there, and then you roll it back and forth, and it makes like tubes that look like, like power tubes or power cables that are all ridged and stuff like that. It's for conversions. If you want to make like something that kind of looks like a tentacle or looks like a power cable or whatever, you put the stuff inside there, like make yourself a little snake of green stuff, get this real wet because otherwise it'll stick to it. And then you use this setup, and it's got like fine or medium or coarse, and then you roll it back and forth, and it makes it look like ridged tubes and stuff like that. So I picked this up because I've always kind of wanted to make those types of things, and this I've got another thing that's supposed to kind of do it, but it doesn't work, I think, as well as this. This like snaps together, and then you can't screw it up and like push too hard on one side. That's one of the things that I see with Green Stuff World is they work real hard. They work to make not only the cool designs, but also to make the stuff work better. Like their acrylic rolls, if you want to make like a certain base, and they have these acrylic rolls with different textures on them, one of the things that they do is they also sell spacers that go on the end of the roll, so that it'll hold it up so you don't tip the roll as you're running it over the base and make it harder on one side and less on the other side. If you put those spacers on there, then it doesn't, it keeps it flat. Fancy stuff like that. Let's see, not much else left. This is going to be hard for you to see. It's a company called Squad Marks. You might be able to see that, maybe not. It's not open currently. Well, so anyway, they're like little plastic circles with little clips on them, and they clip to the underside or whatever of a model's base. So you have a model, and these things would clip, and then they stick up on both sides. So it's just a little disc that goes underneath, and they make 25s, 32s, 40s, all that jazz. And you snap it to the underside of your model. So now your model is sitting on there. Now you can paint the little clips that come up on the sides of the model so that you could say, well, these guys are the blue squad, these guys are red squad, these guys are yellow squad, whatever. And that's cool. But then they also, you can kind of see it in here, these white things, these are stickers, and they're magnetic stickers. So you can, if you want to, put magnetic stickers on the underside of these clips, and then you can transport your models by attaching them to a piece of tin, or like Table Wars, magnetic case, or Magna Rack from Battle Foam. And then if you've got models that don't work well in foam because they're very spindly and delicate, you can just magnetize them, stick them onto this. But you're not using a rare earth magnet, like a neodymium or whatever they're called magnet, which can be sometimes too strong to hold a model, and then you end up breaking the base or doing something weird like that. So yeah, and then also, because it's just a clip, you can unclip it. Like if you decide to take a group of guys to play in a game like it's Kill Team or whatever, you can just snap these things on, go, and then when you come back later, you can just take the clips off, and then you're basically taking off the magnet as well. So I bought 2 packs of these in the 32 millimeter. I'm going to try them out on some of my kill teams, like my Death Guard and my Primaris. But yeah, Squad Marks is the name of the company, and it's cool little clippy magnety things to attach to the bottoms of your models. Only a couple more things. So Crystal Fortress, this is just like a freebie little pack they gave me to kind of check it out. And this just makes, if you build all these little plastic clear parts, it makes a little tray that you can keep tokens in. But they make, if you look up Crystal Fortress online, they make these cases that you put your models in, but they are all super clear acrylic. And they've got little holes to put each model in and all that kind of stuff. They're really cool for display. They are not great for travel, in my opinion. Like if you were to drop if you were carrying all your stuff and you dropped it like even a couple of feet, I think it would just everything would go to hell. But they're not designed to be protective cases like against shock and stuff like that. They're designed to keep dust off and whatever. Like they're designed for you to either use as a display case on your shelf so everything kind of keeps, you can see it. Like I saw the guy, I think from the company at one point, just taking pictures through the case. Like he had all this stuff on there and he would just set up some lights and take pictures because the acrylic is clear enough that you can do that and it works out nicely. But yeah, so they make a lot of different, and it's all modular and you can do whatever you want and customizable. But if you're looking for a case that is something like if you're at a tournament, you can carry your guys around and you're not going to like tip them and have them fall out because it's all kind of self-contained, and you want to still have like a nice looking kind of display, you can do that. But like I said, they're not for like I wouldn't fly with it. It's not designed for that, you know what I mean? But yeah, Crystal Fortress. I did not get a chance to put this thing together yet, but I'm going to do that. It's just a little kind of a little but yay big kind of little case that you can just put some tokens in and stuff like that. Just a little freebie kit thing. And then lastly is I picked up a new little battle foam bag. So this is the mini, and I forget the name of the line. They told me EVA. I could be wrong, but it's like it's almost like, have you seen those you've seen the cases that they put out for Kill Team, and now they've got a new one for Warhammer Underworld, and it's like it's squishy, you know what I mean? Like it's soft on the side, but it's still got some structure to it. But it's not like a canvas case. It's I don't know. It's like maybe plastic impregnated foam. I don't know what the heck it is, but it's a neat little case. It's got a pocket on the inside here, on our seat. Yeah, so it's got like a pocket inside here, but I think it's Velcroed in, so you can get rid of it if you want to. And then it's it's got the normal battle foam and all that kind of stuff, and a handle. But they make two sizes. This is the mini, and then they make a C4 size case too, which is about the size of their normal C4 bag, but instead of being that ballistic nylon ripstop canvas stuff with the hard plastic sandwiched in between it, this is all just like a molded, I don't know. But it's a nice little bag that I will definitely use for probably like Kill Team. It's nice to take like a couple of Kill Teams with you to the shop or whatever. But yeah, this is the mini one. They had a big booth there at the show. They were selling a bunch of limited edition colors on their 720 bags. They had like a bright neon green that they only made 200 of, and they had a urban digital camo that actually looked pretty cool. But I did not pick it up because I don't need another 720 bag. I have one. I don't need two. Plus, I don't know how the hell I would have got it home. So there's that too. So yeah, that's really cool. That was basically all the stuff that I picked up. It was, again, like I said, not a ton, but that's because I had to get it home in my luggage. And so we'll see if we'll see how that works out. Let's see here. 3D Sculpted Printed Minis asks, what do you think of the Memphis GW production site increasing from 100,000 square feet to 150,000 square feet? I guess that's good. I don't know. I mean, I'm assuming that means they're going to be doing more production or something. Yeah, I hadn't heard anything about that. I honestly don't know anything about the United States like arm or whatever of the GW. I don't frankly know a ton about the UK production either. I've never been over there, so I don't know anything really much about it. But yeah, I mean, the way that the company is doing very well, it makes sense that they would probably go that direction and start making a bigger facility and doing that kind of stuff. I mean, I know they did a video a little while back about how they did they've built a new production studio, not production, video production. Like they've got a new studio for doing their YouTube stuff and everything like that they've kind of added on or readjusted inside the main building in Nottingham. So that's very cool. Anyway, so that's the cool stuff that I brought back from Adepticon. I got to hang out a little bit on the Frontline Gaming Age of Sigmar stream. So Games Workshop was streaming the big 40K games during the tournament, and Frontline on Twitch was streaming the Age of Sigmar games. And so, again, Blake and Ed from Life After the Cover Save, they were kind of doing a bunch of the color commentary and stuff like that. And then I was hanging out with them a little bit while that was going on. I linked to it on Facebook, but there was a small bit during the semifinals where I talked with Blake on the stream, and that was a lot of fun. It's cool, I mean, it's interesting to see these big streams and all that kind of stuff. And just for me as a tech nerd, it's interesting to see all the fancy equipment that they use. Way, 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 way fancier than the stuff that I've got. But yeah, it's very cool that kind of stuff is happening. And I mean, I'd heard like generally like the Age of Sigmar stream through Frontline was like, while I was sitting there, the concurrent viewers was usually around anywhere from 180 to 220 roughly. But the big 40K, like the big 40K end championship game, I heard maxed out somewhere around 14,000 viewers concurrent. At least that's what I heard. I don't know if that's true or not. I wasn't over there looking at it, but it was a lot. So, that's always good for the hobby, I think, to some degree. Rolling Thunder says, I have that battle foam bag. Use it for Kill Team. I like it. I think it's going to be good. I'm looking forward to using it some. What else have we got here? VJ Morph says, I've got the 40K case like that. We'll be bringing it to the U.S. with my Blitzbowl and Shadespire warbands to play at TMX. Well, that's cool. Yeah, no, I like small bags like that. Like, I have a really big bag, which I've never really ever used. Like, I bought it thinking, oh, this will be great. I'll be able to carry like my entire 40K army in it and, the drop pods and all this stuff. And now I predominantly mostly play more skirmishy stuff and don't. Like, if I put all my kill teams into my 1520 huge bag, which is the size of like a dorm fridge, then I would still have to put, like, seriously, like, there's so much, it's a humongous bag. So generally I use smaller stuff when I'm going like that. Let me see here. Did I say Adepticon, J-Tick, at some point? Are these things I got from Adepticon? No, I'm sorry. I apologize. I meant Las Vegas Open. But yeah, I'm looking forward to Adepticon quite a bit. It's coming up soon, very, very soon. End of March. It's the 27th to the 30th? I don't know, something like that. And yeah, looking forward to Adepticon quite a bit. It's going to be a good time. I hope if you're there, I hope to see you at Adepticon. I hope that maybe you got to get into my classes if you're interested in that kind of thing. So yeah. Hey, it's Bleep Bloop. Hey, Adam, nice to meet you at LVO. Thanks for posting my Death Age of Sigmar army on Instagram. You're welcome. It's a very good army. Super. Again, like I said earlier, if you got the chance, go look at the pictures that I posted on Instagram of Bleep Bloop's army. It's really, really nice Death Army stuff. And let me see. Is there any model crossover from 30 to 40K for Chaos Legions? I mean, well, I don't know. That's a good question. I don't know that answer, frankly. I mean, I think you probably could to some degree. I mean, the big deal between, say, 30K and 40K, at least on the Loyalist side, is that generally 30K does not have skulls everywhere. Because the whole reason that 40K stuff has skulls everywhere is because the skull is basically kind of the symbol of the Emperor to some degree. Because the Emperor's on the throne and is sort of croaked, but not quite. And it's almost like the cross, if you were like Christian or like the whatever, that kind of stuff. So the reason that when you look at like 40K models, like Space Marines and stuff, and they're covered in skulls, and you're always like, geez, that's a lot of skulls. Well, it's their symbology basically for that. Well, while the Emperor was still alive and kicking and doing well, then if you look at those models from 30K, no one's covered in skulls for the most part. Now, the Chaos stuff, because they went bad, you would think... I think that what we see in 40K of Chaos in a lot of situations is I've been growing these weird horns out of my back and whatnot as a Space Marine for the last 10,000 years since the Heresy. And so if you're playing 30K against Chaos, I don't think that they've had a lot of that change yet too much. So, you'd be fighting against Emperor's Children or something like that, and, yeah, they've gone bad. They're traders now, but they haven't like started growing fangs and weird crap all over the place and horns and spikes everywhere. And so yeah, I think that's generally the case. But other people will in the chat, specifically Jay Tick in the situation who plays 30K, whereas I do not, would probably be able to give you a better answer on that question. JP Got Rocket says, I want one of those little bags for carrying around stuff for Song of Blades and Heroes. Yeah, that'd be pretty good too, honestly. That's true. When I run Song of Blades and Heroes at conventions, the models that the heroes play with are all basically, what do you call them? Like the D&D pre-paint characters that Wizards of the Coast made, I don't know, 10 years ago or whatever. Whereas the bad guys are all like my skeletons that I painted. A lot of them are GW, some of them are romantic and stuff like that. And those are the things that I control. Whereas the rubbery pre-painted, you're going to get Cheeto fingers and stuff all over it. That's fine. I can wash those in the sink later on if I need to. That's been the way it works out. BJ Morph asks, I've been building lots of resin lately. Tips for getting CA glue off of finger or off of t-shirts? Gosh, I've got some pants that I've sort of screwed up with some CA glue, some jeans. I don't know if there's a way to get that out of cloth like that, frankly. One thing that you can do is there is generally CA glue debonder, I think it's called. And it smells to me a lot like acetone or something based off of acetone. The debonder that I've used in the past, what it smells like is nail polish remover. So I think if you had some stuff on a t-shirt and then you use that stuff on it to get it out of the t-shirt, I think that you would at least probably kill the color of the t-shirt to some degree, possibly eat a hole in the t-shirt. So your mileage may vary on that. Yeah, I don't know. That's a good question. Off of fingers and stuff like that, I've used the debonder and it works out pretty well. But generally, I just end up kind of eventually like picking it off. There are times when I go to work or whatever the next day and my fingers are still kind of crusty from getting glue on them if I screwed up bad and like dripped it all over or something like that. That happens. There's not a great way to get it off because that's the whole point. Like that was the reason they made that glue originally, like in World War II, was because they were going to use it to close wounds. And then evidently people were like, oh, well, you could build models with this too or whatever. I don't think that's where they went initially, but yeah, you see what I'm saying. John says, anyone playing Gaslands these days? I had a carnage-filled game Friday night. I actually crossed the finish line, a rare occurrence. That's true. Crossing the actual finish line is kind of a rare occurrence in Gaslands because there's a lot of shooting and running into stuff and exploding. I am going to, this is vaguely related to Gaslands, but not quite. I am going to Austin, Texas in early April. I don't know the date exactly off the top of my head, but it's the first weekend in April, I think. And I'm going to Austin, Texas for FnordCon, which is Steve Jackson Games, the guys who make like Munchkin and all that kind of stuff. Like their first convention. They're holding their first convention in Austin. And I'm going partially because I've got some friends that live in Austin, so I'll see them at some point. But I'm also going because I am going to... they're going to have the new version of Car Wars, which is, I believe, 6th edition. And they're going to be showing it off and stuff like that. You won't be able to buy it yet, but they'll be showing it off. I get the feeling that they have finally decided to make a new version of Car Wars because of Gaslands, if I'm perfectly honest. This new version of Car Wars will have like plastic car miniatures. I think it's going to be streamlined because the old version of Car Wars, which I played like all the time back when I was in college, there's a lot to it. You know what I mean? And it's not the type of game that you would generally play these days. So the old version is not streamlined, and this new version is. But I kind of want to see what they're doing, and so that's one of the reasons why I want to go. Plus, I've never been to Texas. That's also interesting. So we'll see how that works out. But yeah, I do honestly believe because they. Like back in 2011, 2012, when they did their big Ogre Kickstarter, one of the stretch goals was, well, if we hit like $700,000 on this thing, then we promise we'll do a new version of Kill Team Car Wars, and we'll make a Kickstarter for it. Well, it's 2019, and they are finally getting to the point where they're going to do a Kickstarter soon. So I honestly do believe the only reason they're actually doing it is because Gaslands has been selling so well and people have been enjoying it so much. I still don't. I have a suspicion I still may enjoy Gaslands better. We'll see, but that's one of the reasons why I want to go and check it out. Let me see here. Nika says, I want to start Kill Team. The starter Krogskull Boys is not 100 points. I have no idea what else I need to buy to make a complete team. Any direction? I know with the orcs for Kill Team, you can get Gretchens, you can get boys, you can get commandos, you can get Burna boys, and you can get Ludas? I don't remember what the last one is. I know I'm building boys, Burnas, and Gretchens for mine because I've already come up with the list. I've got the parts, but I haven't built them yet. But they're going to be coming. I'm probably going to use a Gretchen as my leader, because generally then you just hide the leader someplace and it doesn't matter, because you just want them to keep giving you that command point every turn. But yeah, otherwise I'm going, for the most part, it's going to be Burnas and boys. One of the boys will be like a knob or whatever, all that kind of stuff. But yeah, that's kind of your direction, frankly. It's like you've only got those 4 or 5 different units you can use, so that's what you use. So yeah. JP Got Rocket says, CA glue is an acrylate nail polish remover, dissolves acrylics, so there is that. Oh, see, there you go. Maybe that's what it sounds like, or smells like. That's why it smells like that way. I can see that. Poppy Apple Tree says, I've definitely used super glue to seal wounds. Okay, that's cool. James Palmer says, 5 years seems to have gotten rid of most of the CA glue on my favorite jeans. Well, that's, you got that to look forward to then, I guess. There you go. Carl Cassidy says, yay, finally made a live show. Your lilting tones have propelled me through painting a full bolt-action army, and now you have me tackling my MDF terrain pile, my drawer of shame. Keep it up. Well, you keep it up as well. I appreciate it. Thank you very much, Carl. Yeah, I've got some MDF I should probably build too, but I don't know if I have enough to do an entire Kill Team table. It's a small table. It's like, oh, that's another thing that I bought, and I don't know what I did with it. Oh, it's at the studio. That's why it's not here. I also bought from Frontline Gaming a Kill Team mat. So, the Frontline mats that are made out of that mouse pad material, and they make them in all kinds of different sizes and different designs and stuff like that. Well, now they make 22 by 30 Kill Team mats. So I bought a desert kind of one, and that was hard to get home in my luggage, but it worked. And now it's at the studio, so that's why it's not here. I can't show it to you, but yeah, so you'll see that eventually in on Battle Report or whatever and stuff like that. So yeah, it's cool. They've got maybe had only 2 or 3 different designs there at the show, but the desert one I liked, so I picked that one up. Yes. So anyway, there you go. Mats and Kill Teams. 12 Neef says, Adam, would you be interested in visiting the Warhammer Citadel in Texas? Oh, I forgot about the Warhammer Citadel. I don't know, maybe. I don't think it's real close to Austin, though, is it? If it's close to Austin, then maybe, but I don't think it's close to Austin, from what I understand. JP Got Rocket says, Car Wars and Ogre, oh my. Yeah. That's another thing I'm going to be looking forward to when I'm at the FNORDCon, is playing some Ogre. Specifically Ogre miniatures. I'm going to give that a try. Hopefully get some demos of that in, too. That'd be very cool. Torch says, I want to try Gaslands, or maybe I just want to modify Matchbox cars. See, that's the trick, is you can do both. That's one of the things that's great about, in my opinion, Gaslands, is the fact that it gets you at the grocery store looking at the Matchbox and the Hot Wheel cars for these are on 88 cents, sweet, or whatever. And then yeah, I've bought a bunch and I've started to kind of modify, but I haven't gotten real far on them yet. But they're cool. Dale Schultz says, big fun when you pull your thumb off of a mini and the arm is glued to your thumb instead of the torso. Nail polish remover is my go-to. I have glued far too many parts to my parts many, many times. So yeah, I feel you. That's exactly the way it works. Tony Brunshin says, I really like the commandos, the orc commandos, but fine cast. Yeah, that is a problem. I kind of wanted to do some commandos too, but then I was like, so I'm kind of steering around that. If I went back and looked again, there's maybe some ways I could try to kit bash them and try to make them out of plastic, but I don't know. Poppy says, personally, I'd love for Adam to visit Warhammer World, maybe for Warhammer Fest one year. Yeah, I would kind of like to. I'm thinking about it a little bit, honestly. I'm actually going to get a passport at some point, hopefully. But yeah, because I've never really done that. So we'll see how it works out. My wife and I would kind of also just like to check out England, I guess. So that'd be kind of, again, a 2-for-1. It would be helpful. Let me see here. Dominic says, hey, trying to find which video you talked about the best 3 paints you used from Citadel. Do you recall which one? The best 3 paints you used from Citadel. I know at one video I talked about how my favorite their washes are the best 3 washes that I like. I don't know that I could paint if I didn't have Nuln Oil, Agrax Earthshade, and Seraphim Sepia. Like those 3 paints from them are, and they're not paints, they're washes. But yeah, those 3 I use on nearly every project. I can't think of a project I haven't used that other than maybe terrain. But like if I'm painting a model, I can't think of a model I've ever painted that didn't have probably at least a touch of all 3 of those on them. So if you are looking for, like if you are like, well, I only like to use Vallejo or I only like to use Army Painter or whatever, you may still want to pick up at least those 3 washes from Games Workshop because they are my favorite. So evidently the Citadel is a 4-hour drive. So it's a 4-hour drive from Austin. I keep forgetting how big Texas is. There's that. Let me see here. What game did you play in Vegas? I didn't play anything while I was at Vegas, actually. I wasn't in any of the tournaments or anything. I was there more for teaching my classes and talking to viewers and people and vendors and all kinds of stuff and the media panel on Thursday night and all that jazz. But I don't play competitively, so that's why I don't do that kind of stuff. Let me see here. What else? Torch says we should get a Kickstarter together to send Adam to Warhammer Fest. No, that's fine. You don't have to do that. I appreciate it, but yeah. Let me see. What else have we got? DJ Todd P. Harris says, when modifying Matchbox cars, do you strip the factory paint from the cars or do you simply cover them with primer? I just prime. Yeah, I don't bother stripping the paint because they're... I guess maybe if there was like a design on the hood and the paints that they used for each color of the design were like super thick and when you primed over it you could still see it, I could maybe see being a little concerned about that, maybe rubbing a little sandpaper over the top of it. I mean, there's nothing wrong with rubbing a little sandpaper to begin with just to kind of rough up the gloss coat so that your primer can stick a little bit better. But I don't strip it. Like I don't put it in like LA's Totally Awesome or Super Clean or Simple Green or any of those kind of stuff. I've buffed it. Well, not buffed. That's the wrong word. I've scraped it up a bit with sandpaper so that the primer sticks well, and also so that the glue sticks well. That's kind of the thing too. If you're like gluing like Space Marine weapons or whatever kind of weird plastic tubes and stuff like that onto the model to make them look like guns or missile racks or whatever, having a little bit of texture for that glue to stick to is not a bad idea. Although the CA glue should stick to the gloss coat pretty well, but just as an added sort of precaution, I scuff them up a little bit, but not much. Andreas Pearson says, Agrax Earthshade, the one GW product I don't feel bad using. Well, I mean, that's I guess there's at least something for you there. That's good. What else? Let me see here. Carl Cassidy says, and my foreground terraced house has the wrong floor plate included, head desk. There's a lot of parts to those foreground pieces. It's strange that they would have the wrong piece in it. Well, I suppose if one of the entire panels is just the wrong panel, then yeah, that would make sense. But because so many of those like go together where it's multiple stuff on a single piece of MDF and then there's multiple pieces. Yeah, if one of those pieces of MDF is wrong, then all the parts on there would probably be wrong. I get that. But generally, yeah, I could see that. Wub to Wub Wub says, "What's the biggest Forge World model you've put together?" None. I have never put a World model to. Well, no. I own a Forge World model that I've never built. It's like a Nurgle 40k Sorcerer, maybe, or something like that. Like I've bought Forge World bits, like shoulder pads. I've got some Death Guard Terminator torsos, black Templar, like big storm shields that are super cool. But I've never built like an entire model from Forge World. I've just used the bits. I've never built an entire model. I do own an entire model, but I didn't build it. I bought it on eBay, and it is the fancy schmancy Black Templar Dreadnought. So it's one of those, like, when Forge World, I don't know if they still do this or not, but they made all these different dreadnoughts that are like super specific to specific chapters and stuff like that. And I found it on eBay for cheap, and I ordered it because I was playing Black Templar at the time, and then I never painted it, and now it's going into my Silver Cross army, which is basically Black Templar iconography but a different color scheme. So yeah, it's but I've never built like any of the vehicles or any kind of jazz like that I remember. And I would think I would remember, because nearly every person I've ever talked to who's built that stuff has been like, it is not easy, because it's like, it's a lot of work. So yeah, definitely. John says that the Citadel washes make painting so much quicker and easier. Not having to mix them every time saves effort in spite of the cost. Yeah, honestly, I'm a big fan of using those things, because they do save time. They do really make things look better if you know how to use them right. And it's just, yeah. Some people refer to like Agrex, Earthshader, Null, and Oil, or any one of those three. Sometimes people refer to them as liquid talent, and I don't know that I go quite that far, but yeah, that's part of it. They do definitely help. What else have we got here? Celtic Hobo says, "What do you think of GW's reveals from LVO? New 40k box, Warcry." Honestly, I didn't get to see the press thing because I was still in the airplane. I wanted to make the press thing, because I was gonna originally be in Vegas by like 4 o'clock in the afternoon instead of like 8 p.m. But like I said, the flight was slow and there was problems and all that kind of stuff, so I didn't get to see the press thing. I'm interested in Warcry. A bunch of people in comments recently have been like, "So you're psychic again?" Where you're saying, because a lot of people are thinking that it's going to be basically Kill Team but for Age of Sigmar. That is still yet to be seen, but it's a possibility. It's not a possibility that I'm psychic, although I might be. But yeah, so I'm interested in seeing what Warcry is like. The new 40k box thing they were talking about, I know it's supposed to have like all new models and stuff, and that's cool. I didn't get a real close look at it online. I kind of skimmed past and stuff like that. I'm a little bit more interested in the Warcry stuff, and I know there's been some rumors that have popped up on, I want to say, Reddit and a couple other places, and that's, who's to say whether they're right or not. I don't know. Maybe they'll probably have more about it at, I kind of thought they might talk a little bit more about it at the Toy Fair or whatever, the New York City Toy Fair thing, Toy Show, whatever it's called. But they didn't. They talked about the other stuff that they talked about. Now, the next point at which they might announce it and explain what Warcry is would probably be the Gamma Trade Show in Reno, which is coming up in the beginning of March. And I'll be going to that because my day job, Game 4, we're going to have a booth there. But not this last year, but 2 years ago, they announced Shadow War Armageddon at Reno Trade Show. So that is a possibility. They might talk about Warcry there. If not, then we'll probably hear a lot more about it at Adepticon at the end of March. At the very least, I hope. So yeah, I don't know. It's interesting. Like I'm hoping it's not another box game like Blackstone Fortress, but for Age of Sigmar. I mean, not that there's anything wrong with that. I just do hope it's kind of a kill teamy type game. I think that would be a lot of fun. And I mean, we play around here. The Age of Sigmar that we play is generally 1,000 points, which is almost kill team. I mean, admittedly, you're generally pushing around maybe like my Chaos army is gonna be like 25 models, But if I tried hard, I could make it a lot less. I could go a lot, like bigger models and fewer like goat people and stuff like that, and fewer Skaven, and I could probably make that 1,000 points in 15 models maybe if I wanted to. But having like an actual, like I said, an actual kill team type game for Age of Sigmar would be super cool. So I'm hoping that's what Warcry is, but we'll see. But if it does turn out to be kill team for Age of Sigmar, then people are going to say that I'm a psyker, which I'm trying not to be. Kelly says liquid talent is that bullet bourbon behind you. Yeah, well, that's very possibly the case too. I was hanging out on Saturday night. I think it was Saturday night in Vegas with Blake wasn't there, but Ed from Life After the Cover Save podcast. He was there, his wife. And then I was also hanging out with Carl from Independent Characters and his wife and some other people. Aiden, I mispronounced his name, I'm sorry. Also from Independent Characters, and he's also got his own podcast about Age of Sigmar, which I think is called Heroes and something. He was wearing a shirt, I forget. Anyway, a bunch of us were hanging out at the Paris casino or whatever in like a big bar area. And so, because it was quieter than Bally's by a little, but still loud. But we went there to kind of hang out and talk, and there were some other people there as well. And then I went to go get a drink, and so I got a tub of, which is around here in Wisconsin, a tub is the like normal like rocks glass, like a small little glass. And so I asked for Bullet and Diet Coke, and it was $14.50 for it. Tiny little, like, this is not super fancy bourbon. I like Bullet. It's not expensive. So I was like, so yeah, that was, and then last night I was out at this music thing and I ordered the same thing and normally when you order a drink in Wisconsin, you don't get it in a rocks glass or a tub. You generally get it in a pint. Most drinks, like old fashions and stuff, maybe not so much, but generally most drinks you get them in a pint because that's what we do here. And that was, I think $4. So maybe $5, but probably $4. So yeah, it's a little startling, the price difference there. Anyway. Yes, Lords and Heroes. I knew it was something like that with Adam from Independent Characters. Very nice guy. He was also hanging out at where the frontline Age of Sigmar big stream to Twitch. He was frankly, amongst the three of us, me being Blake and Ed and me, and I was only there for a little while. Blake and Ed were the ones that were doing a good portion of the color. Adam was the one who knew what was actually going on because he plays competitively in Age of Sigmar and stuff like that, and has a podcast about it and stuff. So he was kind of like feeding like information and things like that to the color commentator guys and stuff and everything. But yeah, definitely a good guy. Adon. Yep. I'm mispronouncing that right. Someone says it. That's how you pronounce it. It was not great. Let me see here. People talking about bourbon. Uncle Adam, respect from Spain. Respect back. Thank you very much. GW is not selling booze now. No. Useful G says a pint of bourbon. Well, it's not a pint of bourbon. It's also Diet Coke. So, and ice. So yeah, it's not. But it's generally, that's the way it works. Steel Surgery says, I just hope we can use Shadespire warbands for whatever this new kill team like Age of Sigmar game ends up being. Yeah, that would be kind of cool because there's War Scrolls. There's Age of Sigmar War Scrolls for all of the warbands for Warhammer Underworlds. So you can take those, and they're basically like self-contained. It's like a squad. So there's a like if you're using Zarbag's Gits or if you're using Magor's Fiends or whatever, there is a single War Scroll that says this is what happens, and they are a unit and they go do their thing, and that's very cool. I think that would be cool if you could then also use them in this War Cry. I think that would be a great, because it's then you're like, Well, if you want to start with Shadespire, whatever, and then move to Warcry, and then move to Age of Sigmar, you have this like path that just makes it very easy for you. It's almost like an escalation league, except that it's their product line. You know what I mean? It makes a lot of sense. So yeah, that would be very cool too. Let me see here. What else? Father knows best. Delvin Mud was liquid talent. Or what is not Army Painter Strong Tone wash. Even smells the same. Yeah, I like the Army Painter washes as well. The only issue I have, and it's not that big of an issue, but it's a little bit of an issue. I generally prefer washes where I can dip the brush into the pot as opposed to having to squirt it out someplace. For every other type of paint out there, for the most part, I prefer the squeeze bottle, the little dropper bottle. But for washes, I do prefer just being able to dip my brush in there and go. Because otherwise, I have to like get some wash out into something else so that I can. Because I don't like to put it on a wet palette because I have a tendency sometimes that it like goes all over the place. So yeah, that's the one downside to pretty much everybody else's washes that are in a dropper bottle. I wish that they were in a pot. And then I wish that Games Workshop would put all the rest of their paints into dropper bottles except for their washes. Yeah, I have a lot of needs. Sadly, I don't think any of them are going to be satisfied in that situation. So, Evan Williams says that GW sells booze in Warhammer World and Bugman's Bar and always have done. Well, so, I mean, yeah, technically. But they're not producing their own booze, probably. Like, they may even have, like, a specific beer that is named, but it's probably a different brewery that makes it and then, lets them sell it that way. So yeah, I can see that. Chris says I started modifying Hot Wheels this summer for Gaslands. I've done both stripping all the paint and priming over paint. You definitely lose some detail if you don't strip. Yeah, I mean if that's again, I think when you're building stuff for Gaslands, like these are vehicles that are supposed to shoot at each other and smash into each other. If you want to get super fancy, then stripping is cool. It makes sense to get all that paint off so you get all the extra detail. Some of the cars don't even really have a ton of detail sometimes. That's why they cost, like, in some situations, 88 cents. But yeah, I could see that. For me, I was fine just basically like, I'm going to just paint over the current paint and it'll work out well. Yeah. But, your mileage may vary. Totally do it the way you want to do it. I don't even know, like, because of the kind of clear coat they put on there, does normal stuff for stripping actually get the paint off? Like if you use like purple stuff, whatever, super clean, or if you use like LA is totally awesome or any of those, does that actually like work, or do you have to use something a little bit more hardcore? Because in that situation, I would be concerned about melting the wheels. So yeah. Let's see here. What else have we got? Torch says, I do like the Army Painter dip. It's great, except I have to clean up with mineral spirits, and I hate doing that. Yeah, that's the trade-off, but it does work well. I still personally, if I'm ever using those, and I haven't used it in a long time, but when I did used to dip, I stopped dipping, per se, but I still brushed it on, like with a chunkier, uglier, kind of ickier brush, not like a nice paintbrush that you would use, but I used like some other cheap brush. And then I would take the stuff that comes in the big can from Army Painter, and then I would actually just paint it on, because you have more control. If you just dip the model upside down into one of those little cans of the Army Painter strong tone stuff, or any of the tones, then you have to get a lot of it off, because a lot of it will cling to it. And if you just take it and like dip it out and then just immediately set it upside down or right side up again, because you dip it in upside down, you basically all of the stuff will run down. And so like if they're wearing pants and there are folds in their pants folds will get really, really dark. So I've found that I prefer, if I was going to still do that much, I would generally then just I would brush it on as opposed to actually dip. You would think that dipping would be faster, but you have to do a lot of cleanup to make sure that it doesn't get weird. So in most situations, actually just brushing on that stuff works a lot better. That's my opinion, though. Street Surgery asks, will acetone mess up my plastic minis? I think so. I don't know that for sure. I mean, it's not like they will immediately melt them, but over time, probably yes. But acetone is nasty stuff, and I would think it would at the very least soften detail on plastic, Over time, it might just totally melt the stuff, but that I don't know because I've never used it for that. I've only ever used it for. I've used a little tiny bit of nail polish remover because I wanted to get. I had like some paint that was stuck on the inside of the cup on my airbrush, and I could not, like, I didn't want to scrape it because it was down close to the way down towards the bottom. So I had read online that nail polish remover will pretty much destroy any leftover acrylic that you might have in your airbrush. And not mess up your airbrush, so because it's metal. So I used that and it worked out great. So I know that Les Bursley from Awesome Paint Job on YouTube, like, he stands behind that stuff, like nail polish remover for cleaning all his airbrushes, and he has like a ton. So yeah. Static says, unless you're working in a factory, why dip? I mean, if you have a whole bunch, if you're brand new to the hobby and you have a lot of models to get done, I can see the dip being useful. If you're very new to painting and you want to make a big skeleton horde army, I could see the benefits of doing it that way. Like, I can also teach you other ways to do it as well. Like, if you look, I did a video, quick and easy, paint your skeleton horde. That will also work quite well. But there's plenty of people who like the concept of being able to just dip very easily. To be honest, when you dip as well, you are protecting that model because there's polyurethane all over it now. So you're not going to have to worry about, getting stuff stuck to it or having, it's you're protecting that paint, at least the base coat paint, quite a bit because that stuff is pretty thick. It's not for everybody, but if you're starting out, like when I was first kind of starting out painting, like dipping was like worked out nicely for me. But then eventually I think you start to move into kind of other stuff, and then you just kind of use base colors and washes and things like that, and that can be speedy as well. But initially, like, dip is not a bad idea. It's not for everybody. And again, I personally would not actually physically dip the model, because when I did do that back in the day, and this was back when I was using Minwax, like, I don't even know if Army Painter was a company yet. I can't tell you how many times I just dropped the model just straight up into the stupid fluid, and I was like, and then you try to get it out of there, with like a couple of sticks. It's just, it's not great. So I read stories about people who were like gluing bolts to the bottom of their models so that they could put them into a drill chuck on their drill and then dip it and then spin the drill and to get all the excess off and like in a bucket so it didn't spray all over their house or whatever. And I'm like, that seems like a lot of extra work. That's beyond how much work I want to do. So no, I'm not going to do that. But brushing on some of that stuff from like Army Painter or whatever, if that's the way you want to go, I think brushing it is way better than dipping it. So there we go. Let me see here. Sean says that acetone will melt plastic if left on for a long enough period of time. Matt says acetone will melt plastic. VJ Morph says plastic goo. So I would probably not use acetone on plastic. I guess that seems to be the like, don't do that. But Ryan says it's Simple Green or Dettol, which I think is maybe only mostly a UK thing. The Dettol. Simple Green you can get wherever. But that's what he likes, prefers. Let's see here. Board Barista says, question, so my dad is a World War II buff, and I'm looking for a good, simple-to-play war game me and him can get into playing together. What would you suggest? If you're into tanks, there is a good game made by an English company that is called Too Fat Lardies, and it's TOO, and fat, FAT, and then Lardies, which is ALRDIES, something like that, Lardies. And they have a game called What a Tanker, and that is it's basically just all straight up tank battles. And it has a lot of different scales you can play in. So you can use like bigger tanks, you can use smaller like 20 millimeter Flames of War tanks, whatever you want to choose from. There was actually some guys playing it at LVO that were playing with, they almost looked like chibi tanks. Like they were all World War II tanks, but they were all like super deformed, like squished, and but painted super nicely. I saw them several times. And I don't think I got any decent pictures, because they were having such a good time. I didn't want to like get in there and take a bunch of pictures and stuff and bug them, but they were having a really good time. So take a look at it. It's an inexpensive book. I think you can get a PDF if you want to. buy it from them. But yeah, What a Tanker by Two Fat Lardies is it's got you covered in different scales. But now, if you want to have like a lot of troops and things like that, I don't know that it works with troops. I've only ever seen people play it with tanks. So that might be something to look into, though. I could see that. What else are we talking about here? JP Got Rockets says that bolt action or force on force, stay away from things with hundreds of charts or charts and charts for charts. No chain of command or disposable heroes. Yeah, I could see that. Definitely as a beginner, you want to stay away from the chart if you can. VJ Morph says the Dettol just smells like hospitals. It's not that bad of a smell. I have heard from people that it's a horrific smell, and that's why I have a bottle, and I'm a little nervous to open it. Like, I don't think I want to open it in the house. And honestly, these days I've been really enjoying. I still like the Super Clean, the purple stuff, the purple drank. I still like that, and I also really like LA is Totally Awesome because it's A, totally awesome, and B, it's totally cheap. You can get it for like $1 for a 32-ounce thing at the dollar store. So yeah. Midori Panzer says, any advice on removing hard to get mold lines? I try using the Citadel mold line remover and X-Acto blade, but never feels like I'm getting it done right. Those are honestly the X-Acto blade I use myself. I have the mold line thingy from Citadel just because I wanted to try it out, and it's fine, but I'm just so used to using an X-Acto blade, I just use that. You can also try to use little files if you can, or little those little emery boards, the little padded ones that you can get. I mean, you can buy them from like a beauty store or whatever, but you can also buy them from a hobby store, and they generally come in like finer grit maybe. So yeah, I mean, mold lines are a pain, honestly. I know there's some sort of glue that some people will use just to put over the mold line that will dissolve it. I'm concerned about the other details that might also get dissolved. But yeah, so definitely. Yeah, it's mold lines are a pain, but once you kind of get the way you like to do it, then that's probably the way that you'll stay doing it. Well, it is 11 o'clock, actually a touch after. So I want to thank everybody for coming and hanging out on the show and looking at all the neat junk that I brought back. Not junk, but the neat stuff that I brought back from Las Vegas Open. If you were at Las Vegas Open, and I hope that we got to say hi and whatever, that's cool. Next convention that I'll be at will be Reno, Nevada, but it's like a week. It's during the week. It's not on the weekends, so that won't mess with anything. And then the next convention after that is Adepticon, so I hope I can see some of you there as well. Yeah, so we'll be back in 2 weeks for another Every Other Sunday show. I'm going to have to change the schedule again because otherwise it's going to mess with Adepticon, but I'll just have 2 in a row again, and it'll be fine. I don't want to do the 3 weeks apart anymore. I want to instead do 2 in a row, and then that way I can get things on the right schedule. But because of the amount of travel this year, there's going to be a lot of probably schedule changing. All right. Anyway, have a good day and keep hobbying, and that's pretty much it. Thanks for watching.